Hi there, and welcome to the Callosum interview series, Beyond Revenue, Bringing Purpose to Brand. This is where conversations grounded in purpose give insights to the outdoor industry. Thanks for joining us today. So good morning. Happy January. January is already over. How that always happens so quickly. I am here today with Greg Mazu of Singletrack Trails. And while based in Fort Collins, he travels quite a bit. And today we find him in Grand Junction. Greg is the Chief Executive Officer, or more aptly, the Chief Encouragement Officer of Singletrack Trails, which was founded in 2004 and evolved from a trail building company really to a outdoor rec development firm. Began as one company and has evolved into 6, from what I understand, and now has a staff of 54. So welcome, Greg.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on today.
Absolutely. I think this conversation has been long in the coming, so I'm really looking forward to it. So
Yes,
we're going to, yeah,
it
we're
feels like
we always merge at conferences, but we haven't had a chance to go for a deep dive, which is my favorite.
Exactly. So thank you.
Yes, absolutely. So let's start with what I always lead with, which is purpose. There are many definitions of the word purpose. So I'd like to know, in your words, what does purpose mean?
Means drive to me, which is roughly kind of almost the same words. But when I think about what my purpose is, it's what drives me to work probably way too many hours in comparison to somebody else in a day, or to work 7 days a week. But the idea of having a personal life purpose and a business purpose, it's the driver, it's the motivator, it's the caffeine on how I get work done.
Because you want to be there.
Because I want to be there. I want to be the next word that comes to mind is impact. The next business term that comes to mind is impact, right? We want to push the needle and have impact, and all the trendy terms, but it's joy as well, right? So I drive, my purpose drives me, and I enjoy that, and I enjoy the life that I live, and I find joy in the work that we produce.
Wonderful. And I'm sure it resonates with all those around you and those that you touch and transform through the work you do. Wonderful. So with that in mind, I know, you are the CEO and you founded Singletrack Trails. And how do you believe your individual purpose, your drive, was folded into the business? Like, what was the inception point of that?
I think when even looking before I realized I had a company, and that's the thing about Singletrack Trails, is I was working for Colorado State Parks at the time, and woke up one day and realized that they paid me as a contractor through a grant versus as a state employee. And so all of a sudden I woke up one day and had a company. And the good thing is I was okay with that. The bad thing is, starting companies has always been easy to me. It was never a big scary thing. But my merging my personal purpose into the business is just like, I've always wanted to do. I've always wanted to achieve a high result. Whether I always get there or not, I'm not exactly sure. But I've always strived to achieve a great result. And so it was easy in the early years of Singletrack Trails, that result, when the business was just me, was to build great trail. And then as I hired staff, it was to get the whole team to build great trail. And today, the teams all want to build good and great trail. Some days I would argue that they skip on the great and go to very great. And it's like, we can take a step back down to just great or good.
Are you over delivering?
I believe that the staff is getting 100% on the test and answering all the bonus questions correct. So it's an internal strife right now. But and today, it's the drive is to try to have a positive impact on people realizing that outdoor recreation and trails and the infrastructure of trails are essential pieces of our economy and our society, and therefore we need to actually pay for them like we do for highways and roads and sewers and houses and all that stuff.
Absolutely. And I know that you've been with Singletrack since 2004. Is that correct? And
Yeah,
so that's,
yes.
what is that now? How many years is
20
that?
year 22 2 decades.
Yeah.
It's pretty hard to realize that for a guy that needs to be doing something new almost every 2 minutes, I've been doing this for 20 years, and it's outrageous to ponder
Well, and
that right now.
it's new in that you have evolved and the industry has evolved, which has allowed you to, pivot within the company, launch some new companies. And what I know to be true is that you really drive a culture-driven company. I know you're committed to living wages. I know you really look for quality partnerships, and those, like what you said, is the name may convey we build trails, but really what I know you to be is a partner and a developer and committed to that infrastructure. It's sort of like the country just woke up and went, wow, who's taking care of these trails? And not just building them, because there certainly are builders, but the evolution of the maintenance of them and who is utilizing the trails. So I also know that it's not only, when your team is out there, and I love that you discuss your team being in flow state. I study flow state and I really advocate for it to help business owners to manage their time and balance, step outside in the outdoors, which fuels that indoor time that you might have. So what are some of the industry big points that you've experienced in the last 20 years in terms of building trails and infrastructure?
Um, for me, some of the high points are just uh, having been involved in the industry long enough now that 20 years ago there were other folks. Technically the trail building industry has been around in the form that it is since the late 70s, right? So we're really 40 to 50 years old as an industry itself. But in the early 2000s was when there was a shift in the mentality of business owners and folks that we actually started trying to figure out smaller machines to build trails with, or find out better. But we shifted from kind of that CCC model of just send a whole bunch of people out there and they'll get it done, to let's think about how we craft these trails and make it so that people engage in nature. It's not just a path or an avenue to get to the top of the mountain.
Just the destination, right?
Right. How can we actually build these trails to be hydraulically invisible and not have them erode down the mountain, down into the streams, into the cutthroat habitat and all that stuff. It's like, if you look at I'll pick on Colorado 14ers right now for a second. It's like the historical trails go straight up and down the mountain, and they're rutted out, and there's sediment at the bottom of the hill, or it gets into the streams. And so in the early 2000s, that's really when, as an industry, we started thinking about how can we change what we do so that it's more durable. The key word here is sustainable, but durable is a better word. And has less of an impact on the earth, and less of a negative impact on the earth, I should say.
And how does your company go back to maintain trails, or is that something that you teach the local community to continue on?
I'll say, unfortunately, as an industry, as a society, we're not quite there in thinking that trails need maintenance. Most everybody still wants to build new trail. That's the hot. Everybody wants the new trail. Nobody wants to go back and take care of the old trail. And I believe in the next 3 to 5 years, there will be a shift in contracts from building new trails to taking care of all the existing stuff. And a lot of the companies, a lot of the trail builders in this world, whether you work for an agency or a private contractor or a nonprofit will have to kind of reevaluate their purpose in what their work is, and it's going to be taking care of this stuff, because you can look at the, what the federal agencies keep, they love to hide behind their deferred maintenance number, right? Like we have $1 million billion in deferred maintenance at the Forest Service. We can't build new trails, and it's like, well, at some point we're going to have to take those GOA dollars, we're going to have to take those ARPA dollars, and we're going to have to go out and actually take care of the work that we do. And just like we do highways, right? It's just like going out and fixing a pothole or
Right.
or repairing sewer lines. It's like it's the next step in the industry.
But I also like that makes me think of the involvement that you likely have in terms of conservation, in terms of wildlife, like all of this overlaps. And
Yes.
I'm thinking of what is Santa Fe Avenue, I think it's Avenue in Denver, that was originally a buggy thoroughfare, and it's now a gallery district. But it was purely about it, like cut through the city. And as you say, it was just about
Right.
getting to the other end. But now what's along the street is beautiful galleries and coffee shops. And so how has our society changed to, particularly on trails, where we're out of the car, we're engaging more with nature. We need to step away from our technology, but there's also challenges with more and more people being on the trails.
Correct. Yes.
And
And that, to me, when I hear people complain about how busy trail systems are, that's kind of music to my ears.
yeah, I mean, I see on the on the airwaves the conflicts that arise, challenges over directional, or challenges over, was it machine built, or was it,
Yeah.
everyone has an opinion. And yes, it's a good problem to have. We certainly want to be safe. I'm curious to know, like, I read that you prefer really these really unusual projects. I know you built the Palisade Plunge, which is I have not done that. I will not do that. It's a little beyond me these days. But also PBR and Fruta, super fun ride. But I'm interested in the evolution of adaptive trails that are accessible for adaptive.
Yeah. Adaptive, unfortunately for us, we don't get to do as many adaptive trails as I think all trails should be adaptive, right? Like, they're athletes as well. They want to challenge themselves as well, just like the rest of us. And able-bodied people need to just remember that going to 36 inches wide doesn't diminish our experience, period. Right? Like, we can say that we only want 18 inches trail width, but that really shuts out a whole lot to ride an 18-inch wide trail in many locations is difficult, even for the best of riders. And so to go through and build a trail once and build it 36 and still have texture, still have flow, still have engagement for able-bodied mountain bikers and hikers and horseback riders, and think about how to get a trike through for a paraplegic athlete. It's a whole lot easier to do that the first time through, and we get more people engaged and more people to support outdoor recreation and land protections. If we can get more people out using our trails and using our outdoor recreation infrastructure, it's like that's just more people to advocate for land protections and also advocate for funding in the long run. And so that's why, a quick example is I was riding 18 road last fall with a Danish friend of mine. He's actually the IMBA Europe board president, and he was over here in the United States for a couple meetings, and we went for a ride, and there were a couple people out just kind of complaining about how busy 18 road was. And he and I were just like, this, like, one, it didn't seem that busy because a whole lot of people can be absorbed into 18 road in Fruta. And two, it was like, yeah, this is awesome. And
Isn't it great?
what those what those people didn't know is that we were about to embark at Singletrack Trails. We were about to start our contract to build 15 more miles of trail out there.
Yes.
And the reason why there gets to be 15 more miles of trail out there is because how busy the trail system is.
Right. They have evolved. Yes. Can you share about one of your projects around building a trail in like an urban community or something that has transformed a region that isn't your stereotypical trail users?
I yeah, I stuttered there for a second because it seems that mountain bikers are always behind most of our projects, right? But ideally, there's two projects that come to mind for this, and one was in 2013 in Nashville, Tennessee. Um, we built 8 or 9 miles of mountain bike specific trail in the Percy Warner Park in Nashville. It's the second largest city park behind Central Park in New York City in the
Oh,
country. And it was mountain biking was not allowed on any trails in that area. So it was great, very urban environment. Yes, it was in the privileged portion of Nashville, but it was also not far from downtown Nashville. The second one was just completed this past year, where we worked with a nonprofit down in Dallas, Texas, and their purpose is they're trying to ring Dallas with a hard surface trail, and so they're also trying to sprinkle along the route bike parks along the way. So we built in the interface between the privileged and the not so privileged. We built a bike park, and it's great to see that we're not just putting this infrastructure in places that only the white middle upper class can use, but also those of all races and ethnicities and nationalities can use as well and pedal their bike to, because that's one of the hindrances of mountain biking specifically is you almost always have to have a car and have to be able to drive to where you want to ride. So if you can ride from your house along a hard surface bike path to a bike park, we're just going to get more people involved and more people to believe in outdoor recreation.
mm-hmm. Absolutely. I love that. And I think of how the distance that your quote bubble walking distance will take you versus getting on a bicycle and getting exposure in the valley that I live. Like, yes, from most, there is a trail that goes the full length, but there's also areas where you can ride from your home to a trailhead. And the examples of folks that felt confined before that now have access to, just be exposed to more or get to work or whatever that might be is really neat. I also recall reading about your commitment to inclusion for your team in terms of not only ethnicities, but bringing people in from other industries to become passionate and involved in outdoor infrastructure, which, by the way, you mentioned budgets. It has now been confirmed by the BEA that it is a $1 trillion industry. We've been tracking that for, I believe, 6 years now. And so that's exciting. And then you also want to say, well, what does that mean? And, without rolling our eyes, can we adjust the request of where the dollars go? I just read yesterday, I'm trying to recall the state, there's another official outdoor rec office in a state yesterday. So I'm losing track, maybe 26 now.
Yeah.
Do you know that?
It's up there, and the one they announced is Connecticut.
Okay, there you go.
This week. So even small states are getting in on the outdoor rec game. So and I have mountain biked in Connecticut. They do have trails in Connecticut. So but yeah, it's something that from the early foundation of the company, it was always a driver that I know, when I founded the company, I was a middle 20s, mountain biking bra kind of thing. But I always wanted my company to be more than just, I didn't want it to look exactly like me. And over time that has become it has become that basically. And even here in Grand Junction, she's been working for us for 2 years. But one of my staff members, she's from Mexico City. She heard me on a different podcast and decided that she wanted to come work for the company. And she had just recently gotten married, moved to the Fruita area, and reached out and joined our company. And she's been around for 2 years now. And so I have success stories in my head right now. I have the failure stories in my head, and I have the scars to go along with all of this. But the intent is, I want single track trails to be inclusive and welcoming. Sometimes I win on that, sometimes I lose. There's a list of past employees that will probably tell you that all the things that I kind of do wrong on that. But I think nobody can say at the end of the day that my intention wasn't to be welcoming and inviting and providing jobs to those that wanted to come and work with us.
Mm-hmm. What I hear there is that fail forward, and that you have the growth mindset that is so important when you are an entrepreneur, a business owner, to own mistakes, but then take the lessons and move forward.
Yeah,
that's something that I do after working with clients. When a project ends, I drop a client feedback form, a debrief, and the same to the team that works on it. And I say, tell me, where are the opportunities for growth? And to me, that is truly about circling back and say, based on our project, this is what we have improved. And I think that I can see in your development of your businesses that you've done that as well. And I think also to have a culture where you're allowed to make mistakes is the only way that we evolve.
Yeah, and that's actually, to that point, that's actually one of the hardest things to educate staff on, is take a chance. Like I don't know if this is the right answer. It's like, well, there's only one way to find out. And hopefully it doesn't take 20 hours to figure out if that's the wrong answer, but go, like, I try not to get mad when people make are wrong on something. I tell them I might seem like I'm mad, but I'm really just frustrated, right? I'm frustrated for you. I'm frustrated for the process. I'm frustrated for all that stuff, but I'm not mad that you made a wrong choice. Because we now know that this is not the way to go in the future. Yesterday here in Grand Junction, we broke a track on a machine, and I got to show two people how to change something. And I don't know when the last time a track came off of this machine. It was probably 5 years ago. So it was a tough day, and we had to figure out how to get it to function so that we could contract it in to put a new track on. And it was like, we're gonna it took 5 different tries. We had to try 5 different things before we got on the right thing. And so it was really great. When we wrapped it up, I was like, that's the hardest track you guys ever will have to change. And it was one of the harder ones I've had to do.
Learning
life.
moment, probably frustrating. And
Mm-hmm.
you're giving me to a flashback to a moment with my father. This was at least 10 years ago. And I was in a new condo, and I had a horseshoe kitchen with a dishwasher. Well, I called it a dish rinser because it really wasn't washing. And I was quite handy, as I was raised by my dad, to help on Saturday mornings. And so he was visiting, but he was probably 85 years old. And he said, Claire, I can't get down in that corner, so you're going to have to be my eyes. And before we started, we made an agreement that if either of us got frustrated or angry, we would take a pause and, have a drink and come back to it. And I think over the course of the day, we went to Home Depot 3 times and maybe, had a beer or 2. But in the end, it was the hot water pipe was bent on installation, and I learned how to replace that. Those are the moments that you remember forever.
Yes.
And that now whoever was with you at that time yesterday will know how to do it, and will be like, cherish that moment.
Yeah. And the lessons that you learn the most from are the ones that take a long time, and you have to try different things. You then, the next time you have to do that, you will know. It's like, I was chatting with my business life coach recently, and it was like, there's this thought that, if every like, let's just say all the companies go upside down, right? I'm not restarting from nothing. I'm restarting from experience.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so same thing here. It's like next time you're not restarting from nothing on this track, you have the experience to do it. And just trying to get more people to understand that you like we are like, 20 years ago, 20 years ago, still not used to that, like everything I did for this company was a learning experience. And the amount of swear words that I expensed as I learned to get through that stuff by myself in the woods with a machine on the side, or a track thrown on a machine, or a rock I couldn't move. I still implement the lessons learned from 20 years ago on the staff today. So
Yeah, those are those foundational moments, and
mm-hmm.
I know that you have to. It takes grit
Mm-hmm.
to stay, continue to evolve and pivot, and allow yourself to do that, and
Right.
be impacted.
Right.
Someone asked, how are you known as a leader in your industry? And I said, well, first you need to stay on top of articles and industry news, and be able to add insights to it that are unique. And I know that you do quite a bit of traveling and speaking. You were last year at IMBA in Europe. Can you tell me what you saw there that maybe was insightful, distinct from the US?
I it by it was in 22 when I was there. That's how fast time is going.
It was, oh goodness. Oh yeah. So it wasn't
Yes.
even last year. Okay. A year and a half.
Understood.
Yeah.
And for me, like it was great to be invited over to speak at it was English based conference, but there were people from all over Europe there. And for me, it's the welcoming nature of everybody. It's like here, like I was one of 3 Americans over there or whatever. And it was just, everybody was welcoming and opening and whatnot, to chat about the, mountain biking and land protection and trail access. And it's just the thought process that, they're putting into it. It's a globalized economy when it comes to trail access and trail, just like everything else. So they have a lot of the same ideas, but I communicate on a weekly basis with friends I made at that conference, and that's one of my biggest takeaways is we're all working on this. We can sit here and talk about how a globalized economy isn't good, but I have friends in Taiwan and China and New Zealand and Australia, and we're all united by the passion of outdoor recreation, and that that motivates me. That gives me the drive to keep working for all of this.
That's great. I mean, it's that as I say, transformative relationships rather than transaction. It's always at conferences in the networking hours where you find the most value, or you follow up with someone that you have shared values, you have shared purpose, and
or the ride at the end of the conference where it turned out to be the e-bikers and the analogs, and I was in the analog group, and the bonding that we all had, because European trails still currently go straight up and straight down. So if you're not on an electric bike, it took us 3 times as long to do the ride than it did the e-bikers kind of thing. So
interesting.
It was some good bonding as we just suffered pushing our bikes up hills.
Yes, that's some grit there. So you and I were corresponding on LinkedIn about, I think it was a post regarding one of your former podcasts. And I said, thanks for speaking to infrastructure. And I'm going to quote your reply to me. It said, some days I feel like I'm shouting into the void that what we do is foundation to an entire industry. We need to value infrastructure more. So tell me about that.
we can talk about, you mentioned the $1 trillion number for the GDP and all that stuff, but when you go to an outdoor retailer, when you go to uh, Interbike doesn't exist, but if you go to Interbike, if you just even like go into a retail store or anything like that, like there's photographs of product on the walls in their catalogs on their website of people using their product on trails. Like the end game of the bulk of the industry of the gear and apparel is to be used outside on something, and unfortunately that infrastructure is kind of um expected to be there. It just naturally happens. Like there's no value to that. And but there is a huge value. Like if we weren't building those trails, if they might be getting shut down, they might be rutted out, they might list all the negative things that could happen here. And we have to realize that trail building is the niche of a niche of a niche industry.
Mhm.
And outdoor recreation, even though it's one of the biggest GDPs according to the BEA and all and other evaluators, uh, it's still a niche industry. Like we still, right now, outdoor recreation is bigger than like pharmaceuticals and motor vehicles combined, but we will all go spend $60,000 on a new car, or we'll all pay more taxes to have the highway fixed. And instead, in the outdoor rec industry, especially when it comes to mountain biking, if there's something with the trails, people are like, we need to get brand name A to pay for this, or we need to get brand name B to pay for this, or we need to get massive global retailer based in Arkansas to pay for our new trails or whatever. And it's just like, my response to that always is like, when there's a pothole on the highway, do we go to Ford and say that they need to pay for that because their vehicle, right? Like so that's what we have to do. But
Interesting.
even within our industry, and it's changing, right? It's slowly changing over time. But without trails, there is no mountain biking. And so like the bike industry needs, what the bike industry could be doing for outdoor recreation, and the infrastructure is, it's not paying for it, it's advocating for it.
Mhm.
If we actually got, if they would stop bickering back and forth about which UL certification to have for e-bike charging, and actually went to Congress and actually advocated for more access for e-bikes,
Mhm.
we would probably have
Right.
more line items for this kind of thing.
Mhm. Well, I do think that we're moving in that direction towards the organization of the industry because of that number. It gives
Mm-hmm.
some credibility. And, unfortunately, in our industry, our associations are not aligned and are not, it's coming together. We're making progress for sure, but it's interesting to look at those changes. I was recalling an event where Luis Benitez was speaking locally, and he mentioned I think it's called the backpack charge. Like every time you sell a product, can we take 1% and put it towards infrastructure? And
Mm-hmm.
would the purchaser of a product be willing to do that? And so, do we want additional taxes? No one ever wants additional taxes, but I very much think that it's a cooperative effort, that not one organization should own the responsibility of funding everything.
Right.
Collaboration is a beautiful thing.
Right. Well, and to that point, well, yeah, like it's better. Like people want to get bike stickers here in Colorado, just like they do for OHVs, and be able to fund infrastructure through that program. But when you take, I'm in Junction, I'll use the lunch loop as an example here, and it's like when you actually factor what it would be if you do the math on, if you had an annual maintenance crew at the lunch loop, take the number of miles and divide that number by it, and then take how many visitors they have. It's literally like 25 cents every time you would go ride your bike. If you could toss a quarter
Mhm.
into the piggy bank,
Mhm.
like
Oh,
and it's that cheap. It's
that's
that
a
cheap
cool
to take care
idea.
of the stuff. Yeah. So lesser used trail systems would be more expensive, but like something like the Lunch Loop 18 road, it's
Mhm.
10 to 15, it's 10 to 25 cents every time you go ride. You would have to toss something in. It's that, that's how much we would have to tax ourselves every time we go ride.
Mhm. Would I be willing to do that? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I would.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
so so
Okay.
so that's what we we have to think about when it comes to funding this stuff on our own. It's
Mhm.
really not that much. So
Mhm. Well, and I love the innovative thinking. That's really we have to come up with a disruption that
mhm,
has not been tried and see who the early adopters are and
mhm,
do case studies or beta tests to see what might work. So I'm always looking to hear what you've heard, the word on the street is who's accomplished that in what community. I think of
right.
here we in Eagle County, Colorado, we have Vail Valley Mountain Trail Association. I believe they have 5 full-time trail
Mhm,
maintenance individuals. There's no way they can, cover all our trails. And that's not including official on mountain Beaver Creek or Vail Mountain trails. They rely on local organizations to volunteer and to
mhm,
adopt trails, and then the
mhm,
staff teaches.
mhm,
But that,
mhm.
it's quite a lift.
It is a lift, uh and it's just, again, this circles back to the mindset change of getting people to value what we're doing, right? It's when I 7 I'll use when I-70 through Eagle County needs repair. They don't have 12 volunteer days to go repair I-70, right? We value that. And here pretty soon we're going to need, when the local rec center pool needs to be repaired, again, they don't put out
Mhm.
volunteer requests for that work. And so at some point here, we're going to have to value natural surface infrastructure in the same fashion that we do all of those other forms.
Great. Those are great examples. So I'm going to turn the corner a little bit to start to wrap us
Okay.
up. Can you
I,
tell
I,
me, like, what's your biggest joy today? You mentioned joy as your purpose, as your
yeah,
drive.
I, the, the joy is watching other people realize the empowerment that they have
Mm.
at this company, number one, but number two, what outdoor recreation does to empower them to be stronger at taking on life. Like a
Mm.
lot of us use outdoor recreation to reset ourselves and reset our mind to be able to take on the daily challenges of work, family, politics, if that's your thing, or all of that stuff. We use outdoor recreation to reset ourselves and then feel empowered to be able to take on the world.
Awesome. That's a beautiful ripple effect, as I call it, is when the individual understands that their tasks that they do, every movement, every choice ripples out into the community, into the world, and it brings energy so that you don't feel that you need to surrender or be jaded or think that you can't make a difference. And it's a nice red thread from me. So my individual purpose is to get more human beings to get into the outdoors, to heal and to be inspired.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
And I can do that one at a time, but I folded it into Callosum, and the Callosum purpose is to build better brands for a better planet. So
mm-hmm,
because we can get the companies we work with gets more human beings outside. By me speaking to you, the thread goes all the way through to all your 54 employees and all the
mm-hmm.
communities where you work. It's a beautiful example of alignment of purpose.
Yes, exactly. So, um,
Wonderful.
yeah.
If can you share a tip as a founder for other businesses?
Um, take your idea of what you have for your business and where you think you might be in 5 years and multiply by 10. You cannot think big enough.
Mhm.
If I look back at, like, a lot of people try to use the V word when I talk to them about me, and that I had this vision for building all of this. And I prefer the R word. Everything I did was reactionary. I woke up one day and I realized I had a company. I realized I needed to hire staff. I realized this. I have an online retail company because I reacted to a need that I saw. I never established all of these steps, and that's the other thing is like even if you plan all of this out, it's not like just you can plan all you want and rip it up, but what I have learned right now is I could never think big enough as I built the staff, as they did their work. It was bigger. We accomplished goals bigger and faster than expected, and I wasn't ready for that next step. And I can tell you now, after 20 years, when you're not thinking big enough, it will stack up at some point and you're going to hit a speed bump, and you might slide back down a whole bunch of stairs at that point because you just weren't ready.
I heard you mention about getting out of the way of your team, that sometimes you have to, like you are the leader and you are encouraging, but you're also the CEO, and you need to be doing that, looking ahead, thinking big. How do you accomplish that? Without distractions or
accomplish not being in their way.
How do you accomplish finding the time to think big?
I have a lot of windshield time. We've talked multiple, so the thing for me is I travel. Last year it was 30 weeks a year. The year before it was probably closer to 40 weeks out of that year. It's air miles and highway miles, and so that's when I think. I don't have kids. I have businesses, and so 5 o'clock comes around. I don't have to clock out at 5 o'clock to help feed kids and pick them up from school and whatnot. So I have more time for myself to be able to think big. And when I'm trapped in a truck for 8 hours by myself, I do a lot of thinking.
Are you a journaler or an audio talker into your phone? What are your quick tools to help you capture those thoughts?
I make a lot of. I'm a bullet point to do person. So it's just like I just make quick bullet points. I will voice text myself a bullet point, and then I'll accomplish that later. So
there you go. Voice texting. Perfect. Awesome. And you teed yourself up for this perfectly. If you could read the future, where do you see yourself in 20 years?
I need to do more planning. I need to think bigger on this one. I envision at this point, I would love to kind of figure out what act 2 of Greg's life is. I have been doing trails for 20 years. It's awesome. To quote, I've been quoting LeBron James from the early 20s. Like, I want to take my talents to South Beach. So I want to join somebody else's team at this. Like, I think in the 20 years, I will probably be on somebody else's team, and I will be working to build a empowering, all-encompassing company with another team and working with the team. It's awesome that I get to own all of this, but I feel isolated, right? I get to meet people at conferences, but in reality, for these companies, I'm the decision maker, and it all comes down on me. And I would love to work with have a larger board of directors and that kind of team.
Larger platform.
Yeah.
Wonderful. I got it. And so this is one of my favorite questions. Personally, who are you becoming? Like, as a thought leader, people will often reference their past,
right,
and the accreditation that it has. But as we look forward, it's I believe it has the potential to be more inspiring. So how would you like to evolve? Who might you like to collaborate with?
As to the first part, the thought leader part is I want to be I, I'm happy to be the foundation stone. I'm happy to be, you know, as much as being on podcasts and being, in articles, and like, I would rather be the guy in the corner who is hoping to keep things going in the right direction than to be the guy uh, out front telling everybody why it's so great to come to this destination or that destination, or what all we're doing great, and this and that. I'd rather be the foundation stone for building something more. And so I don't need to, at Singletrack Trails, I don't need to be the guy out front, hey, look at me. And in Act Two, I don't want to be, hey, look at me.
Yeah.
Act Two could be supporting other businesses as well, right? I want to be a support structure.
What I love I hear there is it's almost a leading from behind, because it's not about you. It's about, quote, impact. It's about empowering others. That's what I hear. And that's a great second career, I don't know, seventh career for you around you can lead with all your experience with the wisdom.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Awesome. Yeah.
Awesome.
Great.
Okay, let's wrap it up. These are called our rapid fire questions, which are, Greg, you don't know these questions. So tell me, what was your last outside activity?
I walked around our warehouse campus last night because I try to get record an outdoor activity every day. And some days it's just walking a mile every day, or some days it's just walking from gate to gate at an airport. And I try to record that. So.
What? Oh, that's nice. I'm gonna look for that. You put that out on the airwaves?
I just record on Strava every single day, and so my girlfriend and I just try to have an outdoor activity every single day. So
I love it. I'm gonna have to find you on Strava. I learned that when you need to, I work in 90-minute blocks and take a 10-minute break. And I will often go outside and look at the blue sky or look at the horizon line, because it calms the nervous system. It sounds like you know that as well, no matter what it is. I can hit a trailhead from my house, and I take the dogs on a 1-mile loop, and it's called Smile Mile.
Nice.
That's the nickname of it. Yeah, that's the nickname of it. Awesome. And how about your favorite podcast or business book? One that might inspire others or be a coffee table book.
I'm going to give a little shout out to some friends of mine in Nevada with their, I know I'm on your podcast right now, but they just started a podcast last year called Mind the Track. And these are two good friends of mine, and they fill my ears on a lot of miles. And I must confess, I do talk back to them as if I'm with them, because that's how good of friends they are. But the book, I think the book for me is, the one that I reference the most is Patty McCord's Powerful, and she was the original HR person for Netflix. And so there's a lot of good people management in how to do that, and the goal for putting the people first. Like, right, that's the goal. Like, we don't always are successful at putting our staff employees first. Like, sometimes you have to put the business first, but there's a lot of great concepts in there for how to manage people and put them.
I love that. I'm going to have to add that to my list. And finally, how about your top of mind nonprofit?
Most of my personal donations for obviously I'm involved in personally and professionally with mountain biking advocacy nonprofits across the country, local, regional ones, nationals. But most of my personal dollars for donations go to public radio or local radio stations that are nonprofits.
Great, I love it. Those are great ideas. All right, Greg, I'm going to allow you to ask me one question, and then we're going to call it a day.
Ooh,
have anything?
I'm not ready for
it's okay.
Hitting back. No, that's
how about an additional thought?
Actually, I got it. What is your joy out of doing this podcast?
So I'm a growth mindset individual. I'm very curious. So as I have seen you in the industry at conferences, on LinkedIn, I I am fascinated with how entrepreneurs evolve within their businesses
Hmm.
and allow themselves to exist beyond the product or service. So I
Hmm.
know how integrated you are with your team and the challenges that you've had with the evolution of the industry and funding and so forth. So I love to learn vicariously and allow to share resources to more individuals. I work with anyone from, a startup to $30 million brands, and having been on both sides of working corporately and running an agency, anything we can do to support people growing through the gaps, I think is worth the time of this podcast.
Awesome. Good to hear. That's awesome.
Yeah, great. Well, wonderful to finally get to sit with you and have a
Yeah.
conversation, and thanks for making the time.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks for having me on. And this was fantastic.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Thanks for joining us on Beyond Revenue. Thanks for joining us for today's conversation of Beyond Revenue, bringing purpose to brand. We hope to see you again in future episodes. And in the meantime, please be in touch with us on all the usual marketing channels. You can find us on LinkedIn, on Instagram, and of course on our website at gocallosum.com. We sure hope you got outside today.